I think that we've all heard the rumors of Cartoon Network being shut down recently, and while they're not completely true, there's no doubt that cable TV is dying and it isn't the best look for the shows that we've grown up watching. While Cartoon Network confirmed that they're not going anywhere, I still took a moment to think about all the shows I grew up watching and thought that maybe I should make a video about some of our favourite cartoons growing up and pay homage to those who have worked so hard to keep us entertained. Samurai Jack. The first cartoon that I thought of was Samurai Jack. From watching the first episode, I was enchanted by the charm of mixing the cyberpunk, folk and manga elements of the cartoon. It was fluid, seamless and fun. The plot is quite simple to follow. Jack has been thrown into the future by Aku, his strongest enemy, and he has to find a way to go back in time and kill it. While the show is heavily regarded as one of the most visually striking and entertaining Western cartoons, the show was unfortunately axed. Finally, 13 years later, the 5th season of Samurai Jack was announced. Although it was going to be on Adult Swim, I feel like we can include it here. But first, let's go back to 2001 to the first episode of Samurai Jack. The episode takes us to the very beginning of time, where nothing exists. There's vast empty land brimming with the potential of life. However, there's a gigantic explosion which leaves behind a black mass. This was the story of the creation of the ultimate evil, the one that plans to devour the very universe. Fortunately, 3 gods, Odin, the All-Father from Norse mythology, Ra, a powerful god from Egyptian mythology, and Rama, an avatar of the Hindu god Vishnu, step up to face off against the ultimate evil. Their combined divine power is enough to burn the darkness forever, or so it seemed. Turns out, a small fragment of this evil managed to escape and reach planet Earth. While I call it a small fragment, the remaining mass crashes into Japan like an asteroid, and its impact results in the extinction of dinosaurs. After thousands of years, it eventually managed to manifest into a creature known as Aku. While its victory was certain, the gods intervened and blessed the emperor with a special katana which led to Aku's sealing. 8 years later, Aku managed to break free and defeats the emperor before he can reach his katana. Fortunately, they managed to send their son away on a ship, who would now begin a grueling training arc in order to defeat the demon that defeated his father. This prince is none other than Jack, who first learns astrology from the captain of the ship. Next, he arrives at the camp of an Arab sheikh and learns horseback riding. A few years later, he travels to Africa, where a chieftain teaches him the art of stick fighting. During his time in Africa, several bounty hunters attacked him on Aku's orders. Jack put his new skills to use and rescued the villagers who are captured, completing his training. His next destination is Egypt, where he learns how to read hieroglyphics. He also discovers a temple that tells the story of how the 3 minions of Set, the god of evil, were defeated and sealed away. Before he could learn about how they were defeated, his teacher ordered him to return to his studies. After becoming proficient in reading hieroglyphics, Jack travels to Greece to learn the art of wrestling. He learns marksmanship in Europe, seamanship on a Viking ship, axe throwing in Russia, spear throwing in Mongolia, and kung fu in the Shaolin Temple. During his time at the Shaolin Temple, Jack becomes good friends with Tan Zhang, the son of his teacher, who was about the same age as him. By the time Jack completes his training, he has turned 25, having spent 17 years preparing to defeat Aku. On his way, he reunites with his mother, who hands him the mythical sword and a white gel. After getting used to the sword, Jack returns to Japan, ready to end Aku. Here, he finds his people enslaved, including his father. Jack defeats Aku's minions and frees his dad, filled with rage to enact revenge. Jack and Aku's fight was a marvel, as Aku utilizes shapeshifting while Jack proves his worth to the gods, leaving Aku as a tiny shadow lying on the floor. Before Jack can finish off Aku, the ultimate evil pulls out its trump card, a portal to the future where Aku is the ruler. Now, we're in the year 4700, in a high-tech city with all the futuristic stuff you'd expect. There's flying cars, billboards, tall buildings, weird city structures to accommodate the massive population, and etc. Suddenly, Jack meets 3 alien teens, who name him Jack, and well, that's why we call him Jack, meaning his Edo period name was never revealed. Anyways, Jack learns that Aku is the supreme leader of the world. Jack's adventure begins yet again, as his presence is made known to Aku, who launches an attack. While Jack manages to save his friends and escape, he realizes that he has to travel and learn to find a way back in time. This leads him to explore the world of the year 4077, where he makes friends with people like the Scotsman, the White Wolf, and the Shaolin monks of the current time, who are led by an extremely old Tanzan, his master's son, and many more. His journey was not jolly though. He had to defend himself against Aku and his attacks constantly. This included a group called the Daughters of Aku, whose sole purpose was to kill Jack. These women were trained and brainwashed for this sole purpose. Furthermore, Jack also faced off enemies like Demongo, who nearly killed him, and Scaramouche, who mocked him for having failed his people and the gods as he lost his sword during the journey. Actually, Jack threw away the sword voluntarily, becoming tired of the endless cycle of never aging but never being able to defeat Aku. In fact, his mental health had taken such a heavy toll already that he had to fight against his hallucinations. These hallucinations are anguish, bloodlust, apathy, mad Jack, and finally the worst of them all, the Omen. Omen appears multiple times in the show, sending a chill down Jack's spine without fail. While Jack usually manages to fight off the Omen due to his strong mental fortitude, in episode 96 he finally gives in. Jack follows the Omen to a cemetery where he plans on committing seppuku, a process for the samurai which is essentially an honourable form of suicide. This method was considered honourable because it was not a swift end. Jack would stab himself in the stomach and let his body bleed out as he suffered for hours, repenting as he failed to accomplish his task. It wasn't apparent that Jack had been suffering from the time he could remember his life. He was separated from his parents and trained for nearly 2 decades to get back to a normal life, which most take for granted. When his hard work was finally about to pay off, he was sent into an unknown, dark and hellish future where his nemesis ruled with an iron fist for over 4,000 years. Add insult to injury, Jack has been roaming the future world for years now and has been unable to go back to the past as people in 2 timelines constantly suffer. Could someone really blame a man for wanting to end their misery after everything Jack had gone through? Fortunately, before Jack could take his life, Ashi, his lover, found him. Originally, Ash was a part of the Daughter of Aku, the cult that wanted to kill Jack, which we mentioned previously. The Daughters of Aku tried to sneak up on Jack and kill him, but the samurai eventually managed to kill them all, except for Ashi. She managed to survive and attack Jack multiple times, but to no avail. During one such encounter, the two were swallowed by a monster, forcing them to form a temporary alliance. After arguing with Jack multiple times and seeing how he would try to save her regardless of her previous actions, she realized that Jack was not the enemy. Jack takes the time to explain to her the damage that Aku has done, and after a few adventures, Ashi manages to reunite with Jack and help him fight off the Omen while reminding him of all the people he had helped him save. The two then go back on a journey to find Jack's sword, who manages to win back the god's trust, and then the two go on to fight Aku. The battle is not easy as he possesses Ashi, forcing Jack to surrender and be captured. Before Aku can execute Jack, all the friends he's made in this 50-year journey show up to fight against Aku. Ashi manages to break through Aku's possession with the help of Jack's love, and the two travel back in time to slay the ultimate evil. Jack kills Aku with ease, and the samurai marries Ashi for a happy ending. But there's a twist. Ashi starts to disappear. Because Aku is dead in the current era, Ashi can't exist. The show ends with a heartbroken Jack who lives on with the memories of his beloved Ashi. While Samurai Jack made you feel like a badass, some other cartoons kept you awake for nights, and one such show on Cartoon Network was Courage the Cowardly Dog. The story follows Courage, a pink dog who is scared of everything, but he has to overcome his fears to protect his old owners, Eustace and Muriel, from the ghosts in the middle of nowhere of Kansas. While the show has had many scary and creepy moments, one has been etched into my memory. This story took place in episode 7 of the first season, titled King Ramses' Curse. While the episode's plot itself is quite simple, it's King Ramses that scared the hell out of me and countless kids around the world. The episode begins with Courage discovering an Egyptian stone slab outside, which turns out to be stolen from a pharaoh's tomb, making it worth $1 million. King Ramses is the rightful owner of the stone, and when Eustace refused to hand him the stone, the horror begins. While Ramses is a big meme now, I was petrified of the king when they first introduced him. The show rarely used 3D CGI, and when they did, it had an insane effect as Ramses' weird body structure combined with the odd antiques like his hair, clothes, and his nails made them scary. The horrors only get worse as you realize what King Ramses is capable of. Ramses can launch 3 prophesized attacks on his enemies which are written on the slab that was stolen. The first is a water plague where he floods Courage's house, barely leaving any place to breathe for his owners. Fortunately, Scooby manages to open a big drain in the basement to get rid of all the water. Unfortunately though, it gets worse as the next plague is a hidden phonograph playing a song called A Man in Gauze, which is honestly a very annoying song. It literally feels like the song was made to annoy someone. Gladly, Courage manages to find the phonograph and break it. The final plague, a swarm of locusts, is the scariest one. After all, Eustace's greed cost him, as seen in the slab on the TV with a mark of Eustace visible on it. While this might not sound that scary, trust me when I say this, I could not sleep for nights thinking about that one candy I stole from a shop and how the shopkeeper would turn to be King Rams and I had eaten the chocolate already, meaning me and my family would be subjected to the 3 plagues and would die over a chocolate. I swear, I couldn't get this thought out of my mind for days. When I wasn't thinking about being a cool samurai or stolen chocolates, I was still thinking about chocolates. Not the normal ones though, I was thinking about the Jawbreaker. Perhaps the most unique show ever produced by Cartoon Network, Ed, Edd and Eddy, is arguably the most successful show Cartoon Network has ever produced too. The show follows the Eds, Ed with 2 Ds, and Eddy as they try to scam the kids in the neighborhood for a quarter to buy their favorite candy, Jawbreaker. People always remember the show to be visually striking, as that's because it was one of the last shows created with the boiling line style. This style creates an effect that makes people feel like the characters are moving and is created by tracing the same drawing 3 times to create a special effect. The story takes place in Peach Creek, with our main trio supported by a total of 10 characters. All of these characters follow the simple trope, with the Kanka sisters being the female version of our main trio. They weird antiques, like buying jawbreakers from the money from Ed's sister's money and then regretting it and then planning a quick scam to make the money back, but things go wrong and the main trio is stuck flabbergasted. What made Ed, Edd and Eddy so good was the fact that we almost never saw an adult, and all characters had likable and not so likable traits, just like kids do. There was no true malice, just kids being kids and learning things by experimenting, something that I as a kid found to be quite interesting too. What I found more interesting though was a cool looking watch that could turn me into aliens. Ben 10 is an iconic cartoon that aired on Cartoon Network, shaping a generation of children and their expectations from superhero powers. The show starts with Ben and Gwen joining their grandpa, Max, on a 3-month trip around the US in Max's RV, the Rust Bucket. On their first night, Ben goes for a walk in the woods alone to get away from Gwen. He stops to watch a shooting star, but the star suddenly changes its trajectory and aims for Ben. He barely manages to escape the crash radius and decides to inspect the crater. A pod opens automatically and a watch called the Omnitrix springs up and sticks to his hand. This gave him the ability to turn into 10 aliens: Wildmark, Ghost Freak, Grey Matter, Four Arms, Stinkfly, Heat Blast, Diamond Head, Upgrade, and finally XLR8. Ben's first transformation was into Heat Blast, arguably the coolest hero on the roster. Still, Ben was running around screaming, thinking that he was going to burn himself to death. After realizing that the fire won't hurt him, he tries to shoot some fireballs, resulting in a massive forest fire. This attracts the attention of Grandpa Max, who with Gwen rush into the forest with fire extinguishers to help Ben in case he's stuck somewhere. However, they come face to face with a burning man, but realize that it's Ben after he messes around with Gwen. Later, Ben gets lectured for his actions and returns back to his human form. As Grandpa Max goes back into the forest to examine the crash site, Ben turns into Wildmar and ends up fighting some of Viljax's drones. However, it wasn't a smooth fight as Gwen had to save Ben from dying. Again, this ended up in the lecture from Grandpa Max as Ben realized that he is not invincible and that his actions can have dire consequences. Later, they rush to help some citizens stuck on attack by Viljax's mecha droids. Here, Ben finally gets Grandpa Max's permission and turns into Diamond Head. He finally acts like a hero and saves people responsibly, finally accepting that he has the power to become a hero. Ben also receives Grandpa Max's support as he realizes that they can't take off the Omnitrix off of Ben's wrist. Throughout the series, we see Ben grow and become stronger as he faces off against different types of enemies, humans and aliens. The Ben 10 show also gave us Viljax, one of the best villains in cartoon history. Viljax had an aura that demanded respect. He was powerful and intelligent, both proving to be the biggest hurdle for Ben throughout the franchise's history, even in other parts of the series like Ben 10 Alien Force. Another superheroes related carbon that had a chokehold on me was Teen Titans. Featuring one of the most likable casts in any cartoon ever made, Teen Titans easily made their way into the hearts of millions of kids around the world. The show was animated quite well, the action was amazing, the powers were cool, and most importantly, the character development was immaculate. This was only possible because Teen Titans did not shy away from dealing with mature and darker themes. One such episode revolved around Slade and Robin. While the episode where Robin was forced to work for Slade to save his team was equally as dark as grim, this episode left a different type of mark in my teen head. I'm talking about the Haunted episode, where Robin essentially loses his mind due to Slade. In the 5th episode of season 3, the Teen Titans have managed to get rid of Slade for good, but Robin is not buying it. The episode starts off with Cyborg waking up at midnight and finding Robin glued to his seat, looking at the crime computer screen, scanning for something. Cyborg questions Robin and the latter says that he still has work to do. While Cyborg goes back to sleep, Robin heads to the basement and opens a box in which all of Slade's mask and all of his artifacts have been stored. Robin picks up the mask, but the dust causes him to cough. While this is happening, Cyborg turns on the lights and tries to reassure Robin that Slade is actually gone for good. However, Robin states that he cannot relax because Slade was never captured or located. Right at that moment, the tower's alarm goes off and they found out that Cinderblock is creating chaos in the city. During the fight, Robin gets tossed into a small forest-like area. As he gains consciousness, he notices Slade standing near a tree. Angered and shocked, Robin tries to chase him down and throws a birdarang but misses due to the flash from a lightning strike. Eventually, Robin manages to catch up to Slade but fails to land a single strike somehow. Slade then reveals that he freed Cinderblock as a diversion and his real plan was to place the 3 seismic generators on the city's important fault line, which will cause an earthquake so strong that the city will be split in 2. Robin is desperate to stop him now and tries his best to attack and catch Slade, but he fails as his nemesis disappears after a few lightning flashes. With 3 hours left to save the city, Robin is more agitated than ever. The Titans finally find Robin and ask where he was, as capturing Cinderblock took a considerable amount of time without him, causing Beast Boy to develop a cold. Robin tells them of what he has learned, much to everyone's shock. After all, they saw Slade fall into lava. Either way, he orders everyone apart from Starfire to look for, find, and deactivate the generators while he and Starfire try to find Slade. What happens next is shocking, as Robin gets extremely angry when the others fail to locate the generators. Furthermore, as Starfire tries to calm him down, he suddenly notices Slade and chases him. By the time Starfire arrives, Robin has been bested by Slade again, who states that the hero has become sloppy and escapes, passing by Starfire, who rushes to help Robin. Robin screams for Starfire to chase after Slade, but she is dumbfounded as she cannot see anywhere near her. By this point, Robin is fed up. He grabs Starfire's arm aggressively and berates her for letting Slade pass by. Shocked, Shocked, a tear falls from Starfire's eyes as she tells Robin that she did not see anybody near them. Seeing her honest expression, Robin's eyes are left wide open by the shock. Later, all the Titans apart from Robin assemble. Starfire informs them that Robin believes that it is one of Slade's tricks and that he is trying to solve the whole situation alone. Meanwhile, Robin is getting brutalized by Slade. The other Titans reach his location only to find Robin getting battered by someone whom they cannot see. This further leads to an even bigger argument between the Titans. Tired, Starfire knocks him out with a starball. The situation only gets worse as Robin escapes the room he is in and activates quarantine protocol to lock his teammates away as he heads for the basement where Slade's equipment are located. Here, he comes face to face with Slade again and gets brutalized to the point that he begs Slade for mercy. When questioning Slade's existence, he says that he is the evil that haunts every dark corner of his mind, essentially confirming that Slade is not real. Robin gets up and turns on the lights, causing Slade to disappear. At that moment, Starfire appears and assures her that he is alright now, stating that he realized what was happening. As for the fans, there are multiple proofs throughout the episode that Slade was not real, including the fact that the rain does not fall on Slade during their first interaction, and that the branches do not move when he jumps from one to another. Furthermore, his movements did not make any sound at all, and he was able to stand and jump from rubbles without breaking them, while it was the opposite for Robin. Going back to the episode, Robin admits it himself that he couldn't accept that Slade is gone because they have defeated him so many times, but he always managed to come back. Robin suffered from a scary PTSD attack which caused him to seriously lash out on his team. At the tower in quarantine, and it was so real to him that he received physical damage too. As if this wasn't dark enough, Cyborg revealed that Slade's mask contained a hallucinogenic chemical reagent which caused the hallucinations. While Robin has been treated for it, Cyborg later reveals that someone outside the tower had manually triggered it. This meant that while Robin has a case of PTSD, he could be right, ending the episode in a way that sent chills down my spine. The Fight Club-esque hallucinations already made the episode dark enough, but the fact that someone was able to toy with the Titans like this left me dumbfounded and genuinely scared of what they could do next. This episode also showed a mature perspective towards PTSD and its effect on the person, and managed to use it perfectly to create the existence of a villain too, proving just how good the Teen Titans show was. While all of this is cool and interesting, I always found myself going back to the odd and weird cartoons. One such show was The Grim Adventures of Bill and Mandy. If you somehow live under a rock and have never watched the cartoon, it revolves around Billy and Mandy, who managed to defeat the Grim Reaper in a bet and make him their best friend forever. The show always had a simple but effective animation, combined with amazing music to create the perfect atmosphere for any situation. Furthermore, the voice acting completely sold the actors, making them so iconic for so many people around the world. While Teen Titans dealt with dark themes in a mature way, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy used dark themes and combined them with some immaculate comedy to create an odd but entertaining concoction. Most episodes of the show revolved around Billy doing something stupid or Mandy coming up with something interesting to do, with an occasional twist of Grim trying to do something weird and out of the box. Out of all episodes, my favorite episode has to be Billy and Mandy's jacked up Halloween. While this iconic episode is a part of a special titled Grim and Evil, it is a fan favorite for a reason. It is Halloween and our trio is out trick-or-treating. Due to the occasion, Grim decides to tell Billy and Mandy about Jack, a person who managed to escape death. According to Grim, he was there to take Jack's life, but he managed to escape death but got decapitated, leaving him alive but without a face. This caused Jack to become socially unacceptable and that he can only come out on Halloween to play pranks now. Billy, dressed as the Grim Reaper, knocks on the door and it is opened by Jack. Realizing that the scythe Billy is holding is actually Grim's real scythe, Jack steals it. Jack is planning to get his revenge on the people of Ennsville by getting rid of the sun, which will make it so that Halloween night lasts forever. He starts his rampage by destroying a large part of the town and he proceeds to kidnap Grim to decapitate him as revenge. The whole episode is so chill about everything, with Billy rushing to Mandy for help and creating the funniest sequence in the cartoon's history. While Jack knew that Mandy was planning pranks, he was not ready for what Billy was planning. Before Jack could decapitate Grim, Billy pops up and pulls his robe up and shakes his rump, revealing that he was completely naked under the robe, causing Jack to be utterly confused. Furthermore, Owen accidentally trips over all of Mandy's pranks, causing Jack to laugh, which then causes his minions to literally laugh themselves to death. Owen made me hold my stomach and laugh so much in this episode, especially when he approaches Billy, Mandy and Grim in his turtle costume, holding up eggs in his hands and saying, "These are my eggs." Pretty creepy, eh, Mandy? I swear, I've never laughed this hard while watching a cartoon, and antics like this have been the main attraction for many towards this show. Another such odd and funny cartoon in the early 2000s was Codename Kids Next Door. In my opinion, this show has the most outlandish plot that I have ever heard of. According to legend, Earth was once a child's paradise, where children could do as they pleased. Eventually, some children became bored and created adults to laugh at how ridiculous they looked and to work for the good of the population. Eventually, an adult by the name of Mr. Wigglestein rebelled after returning from a demanding day at work. Mr. Wigglestein refused to give in to his child's demands to play horsey, and when he had enough, he gave his child the first spanking in history. This led to the exile of Wigglestein and all the adults from Kidland. To get back at the children, the adults started creating toys that the kids could not resist, forcing them to work for money. However, the children realized this and attacked the adults' power source, coffee. Unfortunately, their plan failed and became a catalyst for an all-out war between the children and the adults. While the kids were strong, adults created spanking robots, leading to a dominant victory for the grown-ups. The adults destroyed almost all of the tree houses, and then kids had to find a refuge on the moon. There, they were content with their life for a while, but started missing the things that the adults created, and the adults missed having kids who do the chores for them. Eventually, some sections of both societies came to a mutual agreement, forming a coalition known as a family. But this harmony did not last long, as adults started creating schools where the kids were made to forget the real history and became brainwashed. This was unacceptable, and the organization Kids Next Door was created to protect children. While the organization is spread worldwide, the show primarily focuses on numbers 1 to 5. My favorite episode is the finale of the first season, which creates the first real development in the story and reveals the main antagonist of the series. The episode is titled Operation Grow Up. It begins with numbers 2, 3, 4 and 5 coming back from the store and wondering when number 1 will return. Suddenly, they are under attack by the delightful children from down the lane, a bunch of goody two-shoes, their arch nemesis. Sector 5 does their best to fight back, but are eventually losing the fight until number 1 returns to even the odds. Kids Next Door manage to defeat their enemies with ease, and number 1 even mocks them. This humiliation was too much to handle for the delightful children. Tired of always losing, they seek the help of their father, who sits on a big chair and has an evil aura around him. While he's extremely disappointed, he allows his kids to have the really incredibly destructive machine to enact their revenge. They rush to the Kids Next Door's treehouse and crush them with their new weapon. However, they are not satisfied just yet. The delightful kids manage to get the age-changing device from one of the previous episodes and use it on number 1, turning him into an adult. This means that he cannot be a part of the team anymore, cutting his youth days short and breaking Sector 5 even more by completely destroying the treehouse. The next day, they manage to find number 1, who shuts them down and goes to find a job. Sector 5 spends nearly 2 weeks in depression, living in a cardboard house until number 4 manages to convince the team to go get ice cream and plan ahead. The ice cream seller turns out to be Nigel, aka number 1. They are disheartened when they realize their leader has truly turned into a cranky old man. Fed up, Sector 5 attacks the delightful kids and manages to steal the age-changing machine, but the delightfuls refuse to lose this time. Their fight continues as both groups transform from kids to babies, teens, adults, and even to their old age. Both groups were in a stalemate until number 1 crashes through with his ice cream truck and uses his authority as an adult to get the device. Before he could revert himself to his true age, the father opens the door and congratulates Nigel for managing to fool a bunch of kids. He then attacks Nigel with his demonic fire. Nigel and Sector 5 launch a counterattack using the ice cream in the truck and manage to defeat the father. While number 1 could have used the device to enact revenge, he turns himself back to a kid and destroys the age-changing device once and for all. Kids Next Door has the perfect blend of oddness and childishness to it, creating a weird premise and telling the stories of kids being kids and how they see adults in a funny way. Let's pass the torch from the old Johnny to the new one, known as Johnny Test. The plot for this cartoon is quite simple. Johnny is an 11-year-old boy who lives with his family and his 13-year-old twin sisters Susan and Mary, who use him as a guinea pig for their science experiments. Oh, he also has a dog named Dookie who can talk. During the second half of the first episode, we see Mary and Susan try to woo their crush, Jill. However, he always ignores them, so they come up with a special treat that will make him attracted to them. They trick Jill into eating the object, but instead of asking the two out, Jill turns into a mutated gorilla, wreaking havoc in the city. To subdue him, the two sisters give superpowers to Johnny and Dookie. The transformations allow Dookie to fly, and Johnny Test turns into Johnny X. As Johnny X, he can shapeshift, has superhuman strength, and can create hurricanes using his hands. The episode sees the two enter Area 51 as they try to rescue Gorilla Joe, where they defeat the army by primarily using Johnny X's abilities. With this, they manage to save Gorilla Joe, who is reverted to his original state by the twin sisters. While we see Johnny Test for most of the series, Johnny X makes multiple appearances, like when he fought against Super Soaking Cyborgs and many others. During all of these appearances, he gains abilities like Super Breath, Flying, Rhino Calling, Sonic Burp, and many more. Johnny Test's charm lies in its sleek and modern animation that is especially highlighted in the hair of characters, and how it is the perfect episodic and relaxing cartoon that occasionally made you laugh. A similar show with interesting characters and stories was The Secret Saturdays, an underrated character that flew under most people's radars. The cartoon followed Zack Saturday and family as the adventurous family fight to protect their secret and powers from the forces of evil while being experts about creatures known as cryptids. Cryptid refers to animals that may or may not exist, sort of like unicorns or the Yeti. Some of these even end up as allies of the Saturday family, as they are half cryptids themselves. While the usual adventures are quite fun to watch, it's the episodes featuring the Monday family that are most entertaining. During the 12th episode of the first season, the Saturdays arrive in an ancient Aztec temple in central Mexico, where they come across the smoke mirror of Tezcatlipoca. Drew Saturday begins parting knowledge to Zack by asking him to feel the magic around them, and then proceeds to argue with Doc about the patterns that covered up the temple's walls. While the two argue, Zack touches the smoke mirror while inspecting it. Unbeknownst to him, this ancient artifact is imbued with dark magic, allowing it to act as a portal to the antimatter universe, the polar opposite of his universe. Coming back to the episode, Zack's action causes the temple to start falling apart and a tornado sweeps in too, with Zack getting hit on the head by a falling statue and passing out. He later wakes up with first aid on his body parts, and the rest of his family is injured as well. Later that night, Zack wakes up when his bed turns to water. He knocks over a snow globe while getting up and triggers a windy snowstorm in his bedroom somehow. He leaves the room and runs into Fisk, who is more rude than usual and accuses him of being Zack's fault. However, the argument is interrupted when Zack notices a shadow down the hall. He first assumes that it's his mum, but Zack runs after the intruder when the person refuses to answer him. The shadow turns out to be a perfect copy of him, who's later known as Zack Monday. This is the Zack from the smoke mirror, i.e. the antimatter version of Zack. Zack Monday is a polar opposite of Saturday, being an extremely sadistic being and a textbook sociopath. He does not take any responsibility, is impulsive, apathetic, and will hurt people to no end just to keep himself entertained. This is seen in his debut episode itself, as even after capturing the whole family, he demands that Zack Saturday begs him to stop torturing his family as he puts Komodo, Fisk, and Zon through immense agony. While Zack Saturday manages to send him back to the anti-world, Zack Monday and Komodo Monday manage to escape in the end unknown to the Saturday family. Throughout the series, Zack Monday appears multiple times and makes sure that he brings pain and suffering to his counterpart, Zack Saturday. As his great nemesis, Zack Monday brings forth a darker and creepy theme to the cartoon, and shows the duality of people perfectly. Well, this was our list for some of the best shows on Cartoon Network. We obviously could not fit all the best cartoons in a single video, so comment on the ones you'd want to be in a part 2 and stay subscribed for more.